Humanity's anger came 40,000 years after the end of the world. Captain Zarkin was shocked when he saw the huge human ship appear on his scanners. He knew the stories. Everyone in Krull knew they had to run. Zarkin was in charge of the Krull's Fury, which was on a regular patrol in the Outer Rim. His battle cruiser was not even close to the human ship, a strange-looking Leviathan. Hails didn't get a response, and then it was gone. Zarkin told Krull's top leaders that he was determined to figure out what was going on. The humans were thought to be dead. Their return meant bad news for the Krull Imperium and the races that were ruled by it. Zarkin had to find out what the humans were planning and stop them, or he would have to kneel in front of their wrath. There were only a few days left for the Krull to figure out the human plan and stop the end of their kingdom. Captain Zarkin looked over the old records carefully, his eyes moving over the worn writing. He became more interested as he read more. The record talked about a race called humans that used to rule a huge kingdom that stretched across the galaxy. Their technology was much better than anything the Krull had ever seen, making them a powerful force. The records then showed that humans had been wiped out in a terrible war with an unknown enemy more than 40,000 years ago. The few people who were still alive ran off to the farthest parts of the galaxy and were never seen again. Zarkin sat back in his chair and thought quickly, is it possible? Could the humans still be out there, waiting to come back and take back the kingdom they lost? He had to learn it. He had to understand the truth. For the next few days, Zarkin stayed in his room and looked through the records for any signs that could help him find the human. He didn't eat or sleep much. His crew started to worry about him, but he didn't care. His quest took over his life. He looked for days and finally found a tip. The records talked about a planet on the edge of the sky that used to be a popular place for people to live. It wasn't likely, but it was the only thing that made sense to him. Zarkin set his course for the planet, and his heart was beating fast with excitement. As they got there, all they saw were the ruins of what used to be a great society. But as Zarkin looked around the broken-down buildings and overgrown streets, he found artifacts and bits of technology that were much more advanced than anything the Krull had ever made. He took a small gadget in his hands and turned it over. There was a sleek and powerful computer in your hand. When he hit a button, the screen lit up and showed a beautiful and easy-to-use holographic interface. Zarkin looked at the objects for hours and was amazed at how complicated and well-made they were. He became aware that the people were much more than a story as he learned more about them. The society they lived in had done amazing things that no one could have imagined. What did happen to them, though? What had gone wrong with them? And could they still be out there waiting for you to come back and take what was rightfully theirs? Zarkin wasn't sure of the answers, but he did know one thing for sure. The people were real, and the Krull Imperium was afraid of them. Before it was too late, he had to find them and stop them. He took the items and went back to his ship, where his mind was already making up plans and ideas. He was on the hunt and wouldn't stop until he found out what the story about the people really meant. Captain Zarkin stood on the bridge of his ship and looked out into the infinite space. He had been looking for the legendary humans for weeks, following every lead and hint he could find. But so far, nothing had turned up. A big, strong Krull called Grak, who was his first officer, walked up to him with a worried look on his face. "Captain, I need to talk to you." As Zarkin turned to look at him, his eyes got very dark. "Grak, what is it?" Grak said in a low voice. "The crew is getting antsy. It seems to them that we have been ignoring our responsibilities while you were obsessed with this." Zarkin clenched his teeth. He growled, "It's not an obsession. It is the most important task ever. The people could be a threat to the whole kingdom." Grak turned his head away. "With all due respect, Captain, that claim is not backed up by any proof. People haven't been seen in a very long time. Were they still alive? Why do you think they would be a threat to us?" Grak jerked when Tassakan slammed his hand down on the console. He growled, "You didn't see what I saw on that planet. They had technology that was far beyond anything we've ever seen or heard of. They could kill all of us in just a few days if they came back." A loud beat from the communications panel cut Grak off as he opened his mouth to answer. Zarkin walked over to it and hit a button. The message that came up on the screen made his eyes widen. He said in a stern voice, "It comes from High Command. They want me to stop my research right now and go back to Krull space." Grak looked happy. "Then we should do what they say, sir. It's been too long for this search, but Zarkin shook his head and looked determined. It was a firm no. When we are so close to the truth, I will not give up on this task. It was clear all the way across the bridge when he turned to face his crew. A lot of you aren't sure what we're doing here, but I promise you that this isn't a crazy goose chase. The people are real, and you can find them somewhere. Someone else will find them if we don't. He took a moment to look at the faces of his crew. I can't make any of you come with me, but I'm still going to look with or without you. You can leave now if you want to. If you do decide to stay, remember that you are a part of something bigger than yourself that has the power to change the course of events. After a moment of quiet, Grak walked forward with his head held high. He told the captain, "I'm with you," in a firm voice. Until the end, the rest of the crew stepped forward one by one, their faces set with purpose. Being able to see his loyal team made Zarkin feel very proud. He knew they would follow him to the end of the galaxy if he had to. He said with power in his voice, "Then it's settled. We're not going to stop looking until we find the truth, no matter what." Afterward, he went back to the computer and started to plan a new route. His mind was already full of ideas. He knew that going against his bosses was very dangerous, but he also knew that he had to keep going because he was so close to solving the galaxy's biggest secret. Zarkin could feel himself getting more and more excited as the ship raced through the stars. He didn't know what was going to happen, but he was ready for any problems that came up. He was sure that nothing could stop him from reaching his goal as long as his crew was by his side. They had been flying for days, going deeper and deeper into space that no one had ever been to before. The team was on edge because they were in unknown territory and were under a lot of stress. Zarkin, on the other hand, kept his eyes on the monitors as he looked for any sign of the humans. Suddenly, the ship's scanner started beeping very loudly. Zarkin leaned forward and saw a blip on the screen. His heart was beating fast. It looked like a ship, but not one he had ever seen before. It was huge, much bigger than their ship, and it looked like it was made of a strange metal that shimmered. Zarkin's first thought was to go up to the ship and try to make contact, but the communications panel lit up before he could give the order. The bridge was filled with a deep, gravelly voice that made Zarkin shiver. "Listen up, Krell vessel," the voice warned in a scary tone. "Who is this?" "Zarkin is the leader of the Black Star Pirates. You are not supposed to be here. Give up now or be killed." Zarkin's eyes got smaller. Even though he had heard of Zarkin and his cruel pirates, he had never met them. While he knew they would not be pushed around, he also knew he had to stand his ground at this point. He said in a firm voice, "This is Captain Zarkin of the Krell Imperium. We don't need to hurt you. We are on a very important task and ask that we may safely pass through your land." After a short pause, Zarkin's voice came back, this time with a hint of amusement. "You say it's a very important task. What could that be?" It took Zarkin a moment to decide how much to tell Zarkin, but he knew he had to get her help to keep looking. He said in a calm voice, "We are looking for a lost species called the humans. We think that they might have left behind tools and technology that we could really use." Zarkin laughed in a loud, rough way. "The people? I'll tell you what, Captain, you're after a lie. I've heard about your little journey, and it sounds interesting. I'll help you if you're willing to share any technology or wealth you find. What if you try to trick me? I'll shoot you out of the sky faster than you can blink." Zarkin clenched his teeth, and his mind was racing. He didn't trust Zarkin, but he knew he had to do what he had to do. He said in a rough voice, "Very well, we made a deal, but Zarkin, I need to warn you. You will feel bad if you betray us." Zarkin laughed once more. "Captain, don't worry. I like how you act. I always do what I say I'll do. Let's move on. We need to cover a lot of ground." That was it. The two ships set off together into the unknown depths of space. Zarkin knew that turning to a pirate for help was very dangerous, but he also knew that he would do anything to find the humans and find out what happened to them. Zarkin felt excited all over again as they flew deeper into space that had never been explored before. He wasn't sure what was going to happen next, but he was getting closer to his goal. He knew he had a good chance of winning because Zarkin and his pirates were on his side. Another blast shook the ship's hull. It was white on Zarkin's knuckles as he gripped the arms of his chair. "Report," he yelled. "Shields at 60%, Captain," Grak answered, his voice tense. "We are being hit hard by the Zathani." Zarkin clenched his teeth. As they were entering the unknown system, A Zathani battleship stopped them in their tracks. The Zathani told them to give up and give them any information they had about the humans, but Zarkin refused. They were now in a frantic fight to stay alive. Zarkin knew they couldn't hold out for much longer because the Zathani ship was bigger and had more weapons than theirs. Someone on the crew said, "Captain, I'm picking up some kind of oddity on the scanners." His voice was shaking. "I've never seen anything like it before." Zarkin bent forward and his eyes got narrow. It looked like a whirling vortex of energy on the screen with a scary green light going through it. It looked like it was pulling them towards it with a force they couldn't fight. "What is that?" Zarkin asked with a tense voice. Zarkin said, "I don't know. We can't do anything else. We need to do it." He looked at the captain. "Go ahead and speed up." The ship jerked forward and dove right into the oddity. The crew held on tight as the ship shook, and the hull groaned from the stress. Then it was over just as quickly as it had started. The ship came out from the other side of the strange thing, and Zarkin's eyes got really big. There was a huge empty space in front of them with the ruins of old ships and bases scattered around it. It looked like a cemetery and was a reminder of a fight that had happened a long time ago. "Where is this?" Zarkin spoke in a low voice, full of awe. Zarkin said, "I don't know. I think we're about to find out, though." Suddenly, the ship's scanners started beeping very loudly. The captain heard an emergency signal, and Grak spoke with a tense voice. "It sounds like it's from a station." Zarkin thought about it for a second and then nodded. "Let us in, Grak. Watch out, though. There is no telling what we will find." As they got closer, Zarkin could see that the station was badly damaged. Weapons fire had stained and burned the skin of the ship. A dim glow of light came from one of the airlocks, but there was something else as well. When they docked with the station, Zarkin took a group of his best warriors inside, where they were ready to fight. It was dark and quiet in the station. The only sound was their steps on the metal floor. After a while, they heard a voice. "Who is there?" It called out, but it was weak and hoarse. Zarkin took a step forward, his heart beating fast. His voice rang out in the dark. "My name is Zarkin, and I'm captain of the Krell Imperium. We're coming in peace." There was quiet for a moment, and then a figure came out of the darkness. Man was tall and thin, with a shock of white hair and bright blue eyes. He spoke in a rough, thin voice. "My name is Dante, and I have been waiting for you." Zarkin's eyes got really big in shock. "Ready for us? How do you mean?" Dante smiled in a sad, weird way. He said, "I am the last person, and I have a message for you." They should follow him, so he did. He led them deeper into the station to a small, dimly lit room. A stasis pod stood in the middle of the room. Its surface was frosty from being old. Dante said with a deep, sad voice, "Because you have been hiding here for thousands of years, waiting for the right time to strike back against our ancient enemy, the Zathani." Zarkin had a lot of thoughts and questions, but Dante went on before he could ask them. "They will do anything to get it," he said. "The Zathani believe we hold the key to ultimate power. We can't let that happen, though. It will decide the fate of the galaxy." He looked at Zarkin with eyes that were very red and angry. "Captain Zarkin, I know what will happen, and in that future, you are very important in the fight against the Zathani. You need to be ready, though. Be strong, because the fights ahead will test you in ways you can't even imagine." Zarkin nodded, and his heart was beating fast with fear and excitement. In that moment, he was aware that something important was about to happen that would turn the course of events. He was ready to fight, ready to die, ready to do anything to keep the galaxy safe from the Zathani and their never-ending need for power. He looked at his team with determination in his eyes. "We have a new mission," he said, and the silence could be heard. "We have to find the Zathani's weakness before they find us, and beat them. It will decide the fate of the galaxy." So they went out into the unknown, ready to face any problems that might come their way. They knew they were more than just fighters. They were guardians of a secret that could change history forever. Another blast shook the station's hull. Alarms went off, and sparks flew from controls that were broken. Zarkin held on to the edge of a control panel to keep himself steady. Over the chaos, Grak yelled, "Shields are down to 20%. This is too much for us to handle." Zarkin clenched his teeth. They were found by the Zathani. Dozens of their battleships had flamed out as they fell from hyperspace. These people were outnumbered and outgunned. "Dante, How much longer do you need to wait for your fleet to be ready? Zarkin turned to the human boss and asked. Dante had a sad face. We need more time, but the reactivation process is almost done. Zarkin gave a nod. We'll then buy you that time. Grak, send all of your power to the guns and thrusters. Zargan, take your ship and come around them from the left. We're going to hit them hard. He smiled with a mean look in his eyes. Thank you, Captain. The two ships pulled away from the station with their guns drawn. As they moved through the Zithani fleet, rockets and energy beams were aimed at them. Zarkin's fingers flew over the controls as he aimed for the closest warship. He fired a bunch of bombs at the enemy ship and was happy to see them hit the hull. But the Zathani wouldn't give up. Like angry hornets, they crowded around Zarkin and Zorgan's ships and hit them hard with lasers. The consoles blew up, and Zarkin felt the deck move under his feet. Shields are gone, Grak said, his voice strained from stress. Break in the hull on deck 4. Zarkin's heart was beating fast. They were running out of time. He took a quick look at the display that showed the state of the human fleet. Just a little longer. Suddenly, there was a bright light on the screen. Zarkin squinted in the bright light, and when he saw what had appeared, his eyes got even bigger. Out of nowhere, a huge fleet of human ships showed up. The bright stars made their smooth silver bodies shine. They moved with fluid ease, like a school of dangerous fish, and they were fully armed. The Zithani ships were spread out because they were caught off guard by the quick appearance of the new threat. Their guns tore through the enemy ships like a hot knife through butter when they opened fire. Zarkin was amazed as the battle's tide changed. It was amazing to see how well the human ships moved together and how precisely they were controlled. They seemed to know exactly what the Zathani were going to do next, and their strikes were very effective. The Zathani fleet was destroyed in just a few minutes. Ships blew up, and the ground was full of broken pieces. The few enemy ships that were still alive turned around and ran away, disappearing into space. Zarkin leaned back in his chair, his heart racing with happiness and relief. It was done. They had won against all odds. The radio came back on, and Dante's voice filled the bridge. All ships, this is Dante. There was a victory over the Zathani, but this is just the start. Zarkin leaned forward and listened carefully. We are the humans, and we have come back, Dante said, his voice filled with a fierce resolve. You have one chance to give up if you have done us wrong. There is only one thing left to do if you don't. Run? Zarkin had a chill go up and down his spine. It was going to be different for a long time. It was clear that the humans were back and ready to fight. He looked over at Zarkin, who had a huge smile on his face. Captain, that's not bad for a day's work. Zarkin agreed with a small smile on his face. Not bad at all, he said. It's really not bad. They stood on the bridge of Zarkin's ship and watched as the human fleet set sail for the stars, ready to face any problems that might come their way. The galaxy shook at their power, and Zarkin knew he had been a part of something truly amazing. The story is now over. Please like and subscribe to our station if you like this story and want to help us out, and I will heart every reply that says 88%. Thanks for your time.